It's late at night. Your room is quiet. Your laptop is open. And right in front of you is the thing you promised yourself you would start today. Maybe it's studying for an exam. Maybe it's finishing an important project. Maybe it's starting that idea that's been sitting in your head for weeks. You look at the screen and say to yourself, all right, let's do this. But before you even begin, you quickly check your phone, just for a minute. Then you open YouTube, one video, then another, and suddenly an hour has passed. The task is still there, untouched. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice keeps repeating, you should really start working right now. You feel a little guilty, then a little frustrated. And the strange part is, you already know what you're supposed to do. You know the task is important. You know delaying it will only make things worse. Yet somehow, you still don't start. So the real question is this: why do we procrastinate? Why do we delay the things that actually matter in our lives? Is it because we're lazy, or is something deeper happening inside our minds? Let's imagine a simple situation. You have an important exam tomorrow. You sit at your desk, your books are open, your pen is ready, everything is set. But the moment you try to start studying, something strange happens. Your brain suddenly wants to do anything else. You adjust your chair, you clean your desk, you check your phone, you tell yourself, maybe I'll just watch one quick video. One video becomes 3 becomes 10, and before you know it, it's midnight. Now the panic begins. Your heart starts beating faster. You promise yourself, tomorrow I'll start earlier. But tomorrow comes, and somehow the exact same cycle repeats again. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Millions of people experience this every single day. Students, writers, creators, entrepreneurs, even some of the most successful people struggle with procrastination. So if it's not laziness, what is it? Here's something surprising. Psychologists say procrastination isn't really a time management problem. It's an emotion management problem. Think about the tasks you usually procrastinate on: studying, writing, working on a big project, starting something new. Most of these tasks aren't impossible. You're capable of doing them, but starting them creates uncomfortable feelings. Sometimes the task feels overwhelming. Sometimes it feels boring. Sometimes it feels confusing. And sometimes it feels scary. There's a small voice inside your mind asking questions like, what if I fail? What if this isn't good enough? What if I try and it doesn't work? Those thoughts create discomfort, and your brain hates discomfort. So instead of facing that feeling, your brain looks for something that feels better right now. Something easy, something enjoyable, something that gives instant reward, like scrolling social media, watching random videos, replying to messages, or doing small tasks that feel productive but don't really matter. In that moment, you're not actually avoiding the work, you're avoiding the feeling that comes with it. And that is procrastination. To understand this better, we need to talk about how the brain works. Inside your brain, there are 2 systems constantly competing for control. One part of the brain is emotional. It wants pleasure right now, and it wants to avoid pain at all costs. The other part of the brain is logical. It thinks about the future. It plans. It sets goals. When you decide to work on something important, the logical part is in control. But the moment the task starts to feel uncomfortable, the emotional part jumps in. And it says something very simple. Let's do something easier. That's why opening TikTok feels effortless. That's why scrolling your phone feels natural. Because those activities give your brain instant dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical that makes you feel rewarded, and the brain loves it. So it chooses short-term comfort over long-term success, even when it knows that decision will create problems later. You can see this pattern everywhere. Think about someone who wants to write a book. Every day they sit in front of their laptop, but when it's time to actually start writing, doubts appear. What if my writing isn't good enough? What if people don't like it? Those thoughts create discomfort. So instead of writing, they start checking emails or researching more or planning the outline again. All of it feels productive, but the real work never begins. The same thing happens with exercise. You know working out is good for you, you know it will improve your health, but when it's time to go to the gym, your brain whispers, maybe tomorrow, because starting feels hard, and the brain always prefers the easier option. But here's the good news. This cycle can be broken. And interestingly, the solution isn't forcing yourself harder, it's making the start easier. There's a simple technique psychologists often recommend. It's called the 2-minute rule. Instead of telling yourself, I need to finish this entire project, tell yourself something much smaller. I'll just work on it for 2 minutes. That's it. 2 minutes. Your brain doesn't resist 2 minutes. It doesn't feel overwhelming. But once you begin, something interesting happens. Momentum starts building. 2 minutes turn into 10. 10 turns into 30. And suddenly, the task that felt impossible is already in progress. Another helpful strategy is removing friction. Make it easier to begin. If you want to study, keep your books ready on the desk. If you want to write, open the document beforehand. If you want to exercise, prepare your workout clothes the night before. The easier it is to start, the less your brain will resist. And there's one more thing that's extremely important. Forgive yourself. Seriously, research shows that people who forgive themselves for procrastinating are actually less likely to procrastinate again, because guilt makes procrastination worse. When you call yourself lazy or irresponsible, you create more negative emotion, and negative emotion is exactly what your brain is trying to escape. So instead of saying, I'm so lazy, try saying, starting is hard sometimes, but I can try again. And maybe this is the most important thing to understand. Procrastination is not a character flaw. It doesn't mean you lack discipline. It doesn't mean you're lazy. It simply means your brain is trying to protect you from discomfort. And once you understand that, something changes. You stop fighting yourself. You start working with your brain instead of working against it. You make tasks smaller. You make starting easier. You focus on progress instead of perfection. And slowly, the cycle begins to break. Because success doesn't belong to people who never procrastinate. It belongs to the people who learn how to start anyway, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's imperfect. Because every big project, every dream, every achievement starts with one simple thing, a small decision to take the first step.